want to demonstrate a little bit of the machinery that allows both persistence and modding. And potentially, although this isn't implemented yet, this machinery will permit in-world live modding. So the coding of a new voxel type from inside the running world. So if you imagine you have on the side of one of the voxel blocks, you have a document that accepts focus, accepts cursor control, accepts keyboard input, and on this surface you have an editor, and you bring up some code and you edit it and you compile it from inside the world and you instantiate it as a new block type. And I'm going to show some of the machinery, or the machinery that will allow this. So over here we look at Dawn in the Marsh, and we look at Cthulhu and how this voxel is created. This voxel is created from a name, NU something, NUDX. It's actually a hash, but again it begins with a capital N. And we look for that file in the file browser. And there it is. NUD.mod. Okay. And this is a little fragment of code that instantiates a textured voxel with a picture of Cthulhu on the side. And they're onto the machinery. We can take all these little fragments of code, each of which exists in its own file, and we can compile them all at once. Sometimes it's not necessary to recompile them if some of their dependencies change. So this just goes through and looks for files of the form n, modules that begin with a capital N, and tries to compile them all. And so all those little, so you see all these little mod files are getting compiled automatically under program control. And eventually we'll try to compile things beginning with N in another directory, and it runs into trouble and it stops. Okay, so let's try to see. Let's see how one of these can be compiled, can be created under program control. All right. So let's look at green ball, which is another voxel. And it's created by looking for the name using a procedure called voxel from name, which imports procedures without importing the modules, so it doesn't import the symbols. It's complicated. Anyway, let's look for the file that contains the green ball code. And it's capital N, capital X, capital E. And let's see. So this code here creates the green ball. But now it's off screen. So I'm going to select all the code and copy it, except for the first line and the last line. These are the lines that contain that anonymous, well, it's not anonymous. I call it anonymous because it's never used in an import statement. The first and last lines of the module are not included. We're going to copy the rest of the text And then we're going to open the Saboteur module, and we're going to compile that string that we just copied. We're going to create another module that will be compiled. So this is undoubtedly a bit slow. Over in the movie segment, you've been watching a loop over and over again, and you can see some of the wonderful end space spheres and the mirrors and the stripy stuff and the interference patterns between the rays and the stripy stuff. Okay. Again, we're going to copy this string. We are going to paste it into the Saboteur as a string. Recompile the Saboteur module. It's compiled. And run it. And you see that it has generated a hash from the string, appended a capital N to it, put a .mod in the end, and used it as the name of a file that it compiled. Here is the file, and that file has already been compiled. So we can now instantiate it as a voxel in the world. Now, that's just the machinery. There's nothing that would prevent one from doing that the whole thing under program control from inside the running world. And there's nothing about that get voxel procedure that requires the world to be restarted in order to make it valid. So it's possible to have a voxel forge. Change the code, pop out a new voxel. So you would find a voxel, examine its code, make changes, instantiate it as a new voxel. I get mirrors and stripes going on over here. And like tiger lily blocks. It's like this is the coming revolution in rendering. There is no doubt whatsoever that this approach will dominate, subsume, destroy polygon, matrix projection, and rasterization for real-time graphics. It's certain.